Last week of the regular season to impress the NCAA selection committee before the conference tournaments and ahead of the NCAA tournament. Lots of teams, including the Auburn Tigers, sit right there on the bubble. Cal, USC, Seton Hall, Missouri. These are teams that are being talked about on the in-out line. So much to be determined over the course of the next few weeks. Welcome into Southeast Sports Plus. I'm Gerhard Mathangani, joined by Gabriella Genereaux and Patrick Walsh driving our show today. This is a very, very fun time of year. March Madness is just around the corner. We've already started some conference basketball tournaments on the women's side and on the men's side as well, punching tickets to March Madness. We know about the automatic qualifiers. The rest of the at-large bids always create drama.
For sure. And I think, this weekend is going to be a big one, seeing who can make it into that tournament.
Exactly. And the SEC teams last year, coming off of season last year, and in NCAA tournament record, 14 of the 16 teams ended up getting in. That's why I'm so intrigued about this year. Where does the committee see the SEC? Because after your non-conference, you're just beating each other.
For sure.
So how do they rank it?
And it's so tight this year, too.
Yeah.
I think that's what makes it difficult. It's like right in that middle 4 through 9 seed. Everyone is so close, and it's such a competitive conference to be in. It's going to be a tough decision.
Yeah, absolutely. Patrick, who do you have your eye on this week as we close out this regular season? Maybe not just in the SEC, but overall.
Yeah, and I talked about in the last hour, we talked about some of the SEC teams that are on the bubble. Yeah. We're going to take, in this hour, we're going to take a look at some of the teams that, if you are on the bubble, you should be rooting against some of these teams. And one team I have my eye on is TCU, and they're currently one of the last 4 teams in the NCAA tournament, obviously going back to earlier this season. I mean, Florida fans don't really want to remember this part of the season because this is when I still thought Florida was going to be a 5 seed this year. So you all can clown me on that take now. Clearly, I was wrong. There's a potential for them being the number 1 seed if they win out and UConn ends up slipping in the Big East. But TCU is like right on that edge right now, and I think the one thing that's kind of keeping me, I don't know, I don't think you should be in the NCAA tournament if you have a quad 4 loss, and they have a quad 4 loss this season. Yes, it was the season opener.
Right.
It was against New Orleans, who is, I want to say, 210th in the net ranking right now.
Yeah.
But they do have that win against Florida, and I feel like that's the one that's keeping them in it right now.
Right. I was literally just about to ask you. If you're giving a team, you're saying, hey, you should lose 0 quad 4 games. Can that be balanced out at all with a high-quality Q1 win?
I mean,
Can any of that can that be nullified because, and I'm glad you said it on the front end, the fact that it was the first game of the season, so you don't necessarily know how bad they're going to be as the season plays out.
I mean, this almost feels like the same argument that people that did not like we were talking about Alabama and the controversy or lack thereof, in my opinion. Alabama was college football playoff team in my opinion. Yes. I don't care if they got demolished by Indiana. Just look at what happened to Oregon. They got beat by even worse.
Correct.
This almost has the feel of losing to Florida State in the opener.
Right.
And then rattling off a bunch of really good wins. I know they just played Texas Tech, I believe it was last night, or it was on Tuesday. They played Texas Tech.
Right.
But the big thing, in my opinion, was this guy right here was not playing, JT Toppin. So that's not even the same Texas Tech team anymore.
Right, but they haven't played without him for what now? About 3 weeks, 4 weeks?
Yeah, right around 3 or 4 weeks.
They're still a top 10 team.
Yeah,
that's true.
And according and the people will say, well, that's according to the AP pollsters. And no offense to Brian Holland and company, but they're like, okay, that's not our people. That's not people that are doing that's not people that are a part of the selection committee or a part of the net or a part, they'll write that off by saying that the pollsters don't look at it game to game like we do and analyze it game to game like we do, even though I know Brian does.
Right. And I think it's also hard, like Gerhard mentioned, to judge them off the very first game of the season. When you see that they beat a team like Texas Tech, they beat a team like Florida.
Yeah. And so TCU's one to keep up with. There's so many interesting storylines because a lot of times you really need every mid-major conference champion, the regular season champion, you need them to win their tournament in order to move forward. In your opinion, what are maybe some other teams that, hey, like these conferences can create problems for the SEC and otherwise if a team gets in and then another at-large team gets in?
Yeah, I think before last night, I was looking at teams in and around the bubble, and the Mountain West has been pretty good in basketball historically. And I was tempted to say New Mexico. It was a team that, hey, SEC squads, you need to watch out for this team over the weekend. Mm-hmm. But they lost to Colorado State last night, and I think that was a Q3 loss. So they are out of it unless they win the Midwest or the Mountain West, which then brings up, hey, what if it's Utah State that does end up winning or ends up finishing second in the Mountain West, doesn't win the conference championship? Is that cause for concern with this? Because now, if you take a look at New Mexico, their only way to make it is you got to win. Right. And if they do win, it's going to bring up, well, does Utah State deserve to be in? And I think if you're taking a look at the at-large bids at some of these mid-major conferences, if it comes down to whether or not Utah State makes it over Miami of Ohio, if Miami of Ohio doesn't win, I think you've got to give it to Utah State, just based on the resume. If it were to come down to those two teams, I don't care if Miami was 29-0 to start the year.
And the reason I was asking is because we're going to continue on this TCU trend is that all of the schools that are, in my opinion, on the bubble of the NCAA tournament that are in a power conference, you kind of want the teams that you play mid-major in the regular season to do well. You have to root for them, and now you kind of have to root against them in a little bit of ways towards the end of the season to open the door for you to be able to get in. Going back to TCU, one of the teams that Auburn and several others will be rooting for going into this tournament, hosting Cincinnati. We saw Cincinnati come up with a huge win not that long ago. What, it was 3 weeks ago? 3 weeks ago? Pulled another Q1 win. I think that this is another really interesting matchup for TCU as it relates to the rest of the SEC and the upcoming field of 68.
Yeah, and I mean, I have followed the Big 12 for the last few years here, and there almost was a passing of the torch last year from the Big 12 to the SEC in being the premier college basketball conference. And the thing that we always talked about in and around the Big 12 was, okay, you're so good from top to bottom, but come March, a lot of these teams are going to be dropping like flies because, one, they're so beat up. Yeah. Just take a look at we just talked about with Texas Tech. JT Toppin's out the rest of the year. I know BYU's without their starting shooting guard for the rest of the year, so they're going to be relying on DeBonsa. And we've seen BYU since he's been out, and that's not the same BYU team. Right. I think they're on a 3-game losing streak now, and they're still going to make the tournament. They're firmly in the tournament. You don't have to pay attention to them by any means. But it just goes back to these it almost is like what the SEC is in football. Yeah. You play Arkansas, they're going to give you a close game. You're going to have to grind it out. You should win that game. As we saw this past year, Arkansas did not win a single game in the SEC. But they're grinded out games that eventually take a toll on you come March. And that's kind of what we see from the Big 12. So I would not be surprised if Cincinnati were to pull off the win against TCU. And that's something, if you're an SEC squad that is on the bubble, you need to be hoping for Cincinnati to win this weekend against TCU.
Yeah, TCU will try to stop that from happening. A guy that's got a lot of tournament experience is Jamie Dixon. He's been to a tournament a lot of times, trying to do so once again this year. He talked about here playing at the end of the season, another tough opponent.
Oh, we still got work to do. I mean, it's a good win, and they had a great win, and maybe there was a little, the other day, and then they have a big game coming up, and it's just what it is. It's how you respond to this journey, and how you handle the ups and the downs. And we've been on a nice run here, but it's a great win. They'll be able to tell us how good we are. But we got a really good Cincinnati team on Saturday, and we've got to go win here on Saturday. So that's all I'm focused on right now. Bad scheduling, but no, it's been great. It's been. You want to do it next year. We're in the players era, so I mean, we scheduled Michigan, we scheduled Florida, we scheduled Wisconsin, begged to get in that tournament to get it. So just as a coach, you want your team to get better. Where are you at? You got new guys and whatever the resources, wherever you're at, what you do, you just want your team to get better as the year's gone on. And this guy's gotten much better as a player, and he's just a competitor, and it's. He played for a really good high school coach, so Coach Mitchell's going to be proud of you. I have to give him a call tonight. But I'm proud of our guys.
There's really good stuff there. Longtime Pittsburgh head coach, now looking to create some magic. Now with this new squad, Gabriella, do you remember last year or 2 years ago, McNeese State, and they came in with the boombox thing with their manager a year ago, and this is anytime I think of Will Wade,
Amir
I think
Khan.
Exactly, Amir Khan. I think of Will Wade. I think of two things. I think of him at LSU wanting to get into fights with everybody, and then when he go into McNeese State and the boombox guy, and now he's at NC State, and Patrick. He's right now, like, I feel like he's got the Will Wade effect where he automatically almost makes you legitimate, whether it's a boombox that Gabriella and I mentioned or on the floor, as you know.
Well, just going back to last season, everyone talks about when it gets to this time of year and we talk about March Madness, it seems like the 12-5 upset is just so common.
Yes.
And it seems like that you can basically pencil one in every year. And McNeese, obviously, with a big win over Clemson in the first round last year. That was probably the worst first half of basketball I've ever seen the Clemson Tigers play. I mean, I want to say they finished with 13 points. Just absolute demolishing on the glass, in and around, in the paint and everywhere. But what Will Wade has done is he's taken some of these guys from McNeese State over to NC State, and obviously, you know, the ACC is historically a great basketball program, but NC State's kind of faltering here. And yes, I know they're still pretty comfortably in, but it's starting to heat up. I think if NC State were to lose this weekend and be one and done in the ACC tournament, that puts their march in jeopardy. They've lost 6 of the last 7 games, blown out by Duke, and it's really not just Duke that they've been blown out by.
Right.
I know the one win, and here's going to be the drawback for some of these teams that are watching this. I know they beat North Carolina, but that was the one game without Caleb Wilson.
Right.
And North Carolina was still trying to find their footing and be able to prove to themselves that, hey, we can win without our star player.
Right.
But some of these blowout losses really make you scratch your head and like, man, is this really an NCAA tournament team?
Yeah.
And, oh, by the way, they also have a quad 4 loss in their own conference.
Wait, who was it?
Georgia Tech.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I think Georgia Tech's right around the 190. In the
Jeez,
net.
Yeah. So I mean, it's been a rough year for a team that's been perpetually pretty good over the course of the last few years. And there you see NC State, they're a little free fall here to end the season. I have a thought, and I don't even know if the committee shares this thought. And if you were on the committee, if you would share this thought, to me, I don't know if it should matter like this, but to me, games at the end of the season, I feel like are way more fresh on the committee's brains.
Right, and I think when you look specifically at Florida, who we're all saying now probably is going to win the national title, I think you see them at the beginning of the season, and they have some crazy losses in there. So I think, how they're playing now versus how they were at the beginning of the season is the perfect testament to you can't judge them off their first, few games.
Right. Yeah, no question about it. Will Wade trying to do what he did at McNeese State, create a little magic towards the end of the season. He spoke after the Duke game.
Yeah, I mean, look, we're in one-game seasons from here on out. I mean, Stanford game's huge for us. Game like tonight, obviously you don't want to lose by 30, but look, tonight's a tough task. The problems, having a 7-point lead at Miami, or with Miami, having the 7-point lead, 2.5 minutes at Notre Dame. Like, those are the problems. Like, these guys are in a little different weight class than we are right now. We know where we got to get to. We can see that live and in person today. This is where we have to strive to kind of get up to that weight class. But the issue in the 5 out of 6 is the games that were within our control. Not necessarily tonight, but we got to put everything we got into Stanford on Saturday. It's the biggest game of the season. We've got to recalibrate and get ready to go.
And with this NC State team, they are over the SEC, and I know that has to irk Will Wade even more, being a former LSU head coach, just to lose to the conference that you left.
Right. And I also wonder, when we were talking about the NCAA selection, how much do they look into the strength of schedule? And, when you are playing those tough teams and those are your losses, how much does that play a factor into if you make the tournament or not?
Right. Well, I mean, speaking of, we talked about Auburn a little while ago. A lot of people thought that's the reason why Auburn has held on as long as they have.
Correct.
Because they have the number, I think it's top 3 strength of schedule in the country. Alabama's right up there as well. So it's almost like we are more we're more inclined to forgive you of your losses because you
Right.
scheduled really hard than
Correct.
reward you for your wins if you just schedule a bunch of cupcakes.
For sure. And I think
Yeah.
Patrick and I looked at Miami of Ohio's strength of schedule, and it was like, what, in the 200s?
258, I think,
Yeah.
was the last number I saw.
Right. And I
It's
just
not.
and they'll say, well, it's hard for us because we can't get people to play us. And
Right.
and who knows how true that actually is. If you want to stockpile wins, I think that if you stockpile wins, that should give you. I think if you end with a 0 in the loss column, I don't care if you play the 360 of 360 schedule. There's a part of me that just feels weird if you're not in now,
But
unless
if
you
they're
lose
cupcake games, if Auburn would have played their schedule,
their schedule with that result, or the schedule with
they
Miami Ohio's
would've-
result.
they would have had that result, though, I think.
I
You know?
think so. Yeah. Because here's what I will say.
Yeah.
We kind of had a mid-major school a few years ago that seemed to dominate. I think it was the A10.
Was it
Dayton with Obi Toppin. This does
yeah,
not
yeah,
have
yeah.
the same feel.
Yeah. Well, it's because you can name a singular figure.
Yeah.
And I feel like with Miami of Ohio, because we cannot name a singular figure, I guarantee you if they had a lottery pick,
Yeah.
we would look at this team differently.
You could make the argument, yeah.
Yeah, because I think, to your point, when we do have these mid-major teams that go on these runs, sometimes we will forgive the strength of schedule if there is a face and a name and a coach that we identify, or it's like, oh, that's the diamond in the haystack.
Like Fred Van Vliet with Wichita State.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Like I think, and it was one of the guys. I know Gonzaga's a power now, but at the time, I think it was Adam Morrison. Was
yeah.
just like this huge central figure. I just think I watched maybe 15 dribbles of Miami Ohio basketball. I just think that if you have a
Me too.
0 in the loss column, I just feel weird keeping them out. Sorry, Bruce Pearl. I don't agree with you. But even he's walked that back. No.
Did he fully walk it back, or did
I
he just
don't know.
apologize for the
I think he-
statement?
I think he realized, like,
I'll
hey,
look
I
it
probably
up.
shouldn't have said that.
Yeah.
Like,
I think he.
But he
realized-
still believes it.
he probably still believes
still
it, but
believes
he had to
Auburn.
do like the PR response, like,
Right.
hey, I can't be
Right.
saying this as an analyst. I can't be taking sides here.
Yeah, we were talking with Patrick earlier. I think that he knows that he's not the good messenger for